Okay, so we're on the second line of Daf Kuf Yud Amud Aleph, and we're talking about kechal, which is the udder of the animal. And it has sacs of milk contained within the udder, so that, of course, is the inherent question. Is there a problem of basar b'chalav in eating an udder? And so the Gemara had brought two opinions of Rav, that if a person, the Mishnah had said clearly that you have to cut it open to allow the milk to run out before cooking it. There's also a distinction to be drawn between roasting and cooking. And the Gemara's question is, what if I cooked it b'di'evid without cutting it open first to let the milk run out? Would we say that b'di'evid it's kosher or it's not kosher? And so we have two versions of a statement from Rav. One version said that it's mutter b'di'evid, and the other version said that it's asur b'di'evid. And so we need to get clarity. Now, what's the svara to say that it's mutter? The svara to say that it's mutter is that it doesn't have a halachic status of milk vis-a-vis meat until it leaves the udders. But once if it's still remaining in the sacs of the udder, so then it doesn't have halachically the status of milk. But maybe perhaps still midrabanan we should aser it. So anyway, Kisolik Rabbi Elazar, Ashkeche leze'eri, Amar lei ikatana da asnaye l'rav kechal. So, Martin, would you mind? Okay, thank you. So Rabbi Elazar went to, he lives in Eretz Yisrael. He goes to Bavel, and he knows that Rav had spent some time in Bavel. So he comes to Ze'eri and says, is there any teacher in Bavel who had taught Rav this halacha that is cited in his name, that the kachal b'di'evid is asur if it's cooked without slicing it? So ach v'yela Rav Yitzchak bar Avudimi. So he said, well, why don't you ask Rav Yitzchak bar Avudimi? He was Rav's Rebbe. So Amar lei ani lo shanisi lo kachal kol ikar. So he said. So they went to Rav Yitzchak, and Rav Yitzchak said, I never taught Rav anything about kachal. He didn't get this chumrah from me. V'Rav bika matzah v'gadar bageder, the Rav ikla l'tatalfosh shama lehahi itza dekamer lechaverta riva de bisra kamachel b'boy levishulei. He says, but why? So Rav Yitzchak says, but you know why Rav was machmir on kachal? Because he felt that he needed to repair a breach within Klal Yisrael. He had once come to a certain place called Tatalfosh, and he found Bika Matzah. Rashi says he saw that there was a valley in practice, meaning people were at a low state in their practice of Judaism. He comes to this town called Tatalfosh. He hears a woman saying to her friend, how much milk do you need to cook a certain measurement of meat, a riva of meat? And so Rav says to himself, Amar lo gamiri de basar b'chalav asar. He says, these people don't have the concept that you can't have milk and meat together. So So he stayed for a while and made sure that people would at least know that kechal, that the udder, is prohibited. And Rav Kahana masni hachi, Reb Yossi bar Abi masni, ana kechal shel minika shanisi lo, umi pilpulo shel Rabbi Chia shana lo kechal stam. So Rav Kahana learned the version of the story that way, that Rav was machmir because of a breach that he saw in a certain community. And he said, well, this is utterly unacceptable. Oh, sorry about that. I had to get that in.
You're milking it.
Yeah, I'm milking it, yeah. Right. So he was machmir. Daring you a cup, okay. And Rabbi Yossi bar Abba had a different version of the story about why Rav was machmir. He says because what happened was that they had heard shir from Reb Chia, and Reb Chia was such a charif, he was so sharp that he expected his students to understand him even when he spoke in an abbreviated form. So he said, he gave a shir one day and he said the kachal is aser. He assumed that his students would understand that he's not talking about all udders, only the udders from lactating animals. But if an animal is not lactating, so then there's no reason to aser the udder. But Rav didn't draw that from the shir because Reb Chia didn't say it explicitly, and therefore Rav was machmir in all udders. Rabin v'Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef iklo lebei Rav Papi, aisu lekamayu tafshila de kechal. Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef achal, Rabin lo achal. So now we have a story. Rabin and Rav Yitzchak are two Amoraim. They come once to the house of Rav Papi, and they brought out, in Rav Papi's house, they brought out cooked udder. And Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef ate it, but Rabin refused to eat it. So Amar Abaye, Rabin tichla, mailo achal. Mechli devisu de Rav Papi, barati de Rav Yitzchak nafcha havoi, v'Rav Yitzchak nafcha mori de uvda hava. Ilav de shamia la mi beinasha lo hava avda. So Abaye chides Rabin for being unnecessarily machmir. They bring you out a meal in Rav Papi's house and you're not going to eat it because you're worried about the kashrus. So he calls him Rabin Tichla. I'm going to get to this word Tichla in just a second because Rashi says it means you bereft one. So, but we'll get to that in just a second. But what was the argument? Why was he chiding him? He says to him, listen, do you know who Rebbetzin Papi is? Rebbetzin Papi is the daughter of Rav Yitzchak Nafcha. Rav Yitzchak Nafcha was so frum, he was so meticulous in everything that he did, were it not for the fact that Rav Papi had seen from his Rebbetzin and her household that it was okay to eat kachal, he never would serve it. So how could you go against Rav Papi, the Rebbetzin Papi, Rav Yitzchak Nafcha? Of course it's okay. Now, why does Abaye call him the bereft one? Rashi says something very harsh. Rabin had lost children, and he was insulting him by reminding him that just like you're bereft of children, you're bereft of knowledge. Now, can you imagine insulting someone that way? So I saw in another sefer, Sidra D'Alpha Besa, which I didn't have a chance to research what the origin, but it's an older sefer. He says if it were not for Rashi, he would say that the word tichla over here means a person who is a merchant of techeles, or is very meticulous in the mitzvah of techeles. And he's saying to Rabin, a man of your stature who is so makbid on mitzvahs should not be overly frum. In other words, you have to know when to be machmir and when to be mekel. And that's what he was trying to tell him. So it's a little bit more palatable in the way that this sefer explains the word tichla. Not a bereft person, but a person who's very meticulous in observance because the word tichla comes from the word techelas. Anyway, Besura lo achli kachli, b'pumpadisa achli kachli. Now listen to another story. And it's based on the fact that in the town of Sura in Bavel, their minhag was not to eat kachal. But in Pumpadisa, they did eat kachal. And by the way, it's very interesting, Ashkenazim do not eat kachal at all, even if you cut it open and roast it. Many Sephardim do eat kachal. You can ask your wife if she ever had kachal before. But I remember learning this. There were Sephardim in the Kollel, and they said, yeah, we've had, the Iranians, I think, they had kachal. Anyway, so in Pumpadisa, they did eat kachal. So Rami bar Tamari de hu chamua de Rami bar Dikuli mi Pumpadisa, ikla l'sura b'mala yoma de Kipuri, afkinu kulei alma lekachlinu, and shadinhu. So this Rami takes a trip to Sura, and he lives in Pumpadisa. Now remember, Pumpadisa they eat kachal. In Sura they don't eat kachal. He travels to Sura, it's Erev Yom Kippur, and everyone is shechting their animals to have their big Su'udah on Erev Yom Kippur, the Su'udah Mafsekes. So, but because in Sura they don't eat the udder, everyone is discarding the kachal, throwing it away. He apparently didn't have any place to go eat, so he went into different people's garbage, and he found a whole bunch of kachal. So he takes the kachal, azal ihu naktinu achlinhu. So he takes the kachals, and he goes and roasts them and he eats them. So that was his meal before Yom Kippur. So ayasuha lekame de Rav Chisda. So the people see him doing this, and they take him to Rav Chisda, who was the Morad Asra, and they say, "Look at what this guy is doing. I'm a chutzaf. He's eating treif." So Amar lei amai ta'avid hachi. So Rav Chisda says, "Why are you eating kachal?" Amar lei me asra de Rav Yehuda ana de achil. So he says, because I come from Pumpadisa, where Rav Yehuda paskins that it's okay to eat kachal. So Amar lei v'leslach nosna lav chumri hamakam sheyatsa misham chumri hamakam shahalach l'sham. So Rav Chisda says to him, but don't you hold of the standard tradition that when a person is a traveler, he has to assume the minhagim l'chumra from where he comes from, and the minhagim l'chumer of the place where he's going. So just because they eat kachal where you come from, you have to abide by the minhag hamakom. So Amar lei chutz l'tchum achaltinu. So he says, yeah, but I ate it outside the city limits. In other words, he was a chacham. He says, yeah, I took the kachal, I took it right outside the city limits, and that's where I ate it, so I wasn't in violation of the minhag hamakom. Uvamet havitinhu. So then Rav Chisda says, but how did you roast it outside in the middle of nowhere, where the fields are? So Amar lei bepurtzini. He says, I found some grape pulp that was discarded by the winemakers outside the city limits, and I used that as the fuel. I ignited that, and that's what I cooked, that's what I roasted with. V'dilma miyayin nesachabis. Rav Chisda wants to test him. He says, maybe, what right do you have to use that? Maybe it was from non-kosher wine, that grape pulp, and in which case you can't get hana from it. So Amar lei la'achar shnei masar chodesh havu. He says it was so dried out, I could tell that it was already 12 months old, this grape pulp, and the halacha is that if it's so desiccated and dry that there's no moisture left into it, so there's no din of yayin nesach anymore, and you can benefit from it. V'dilma de gezel hava. But wait a minute. How do you know that the owners of the wineries weren't planning to use that? Maybe it's stolen me. What right did you have to take it? So Amar lei yeyush ba'olam hava dekadchu behu chilfi. So he said, no, I could tell that no one wanted it because there were weeds growing through this stuff that was just lying there. And if people really wanted it, they wouldn't have left it there for so long. They would have come back for it. So whoever left it there certainly had yeyush and gave up on ever having it back. So Chazid lo have a manach tefillin. Then Reb Chisda noticed that this Rami wasn't wearing tefillin. It's Erev Yom Kippur, and we wear tefillin the whole day. Why aren't you wearing tefillin? So Amar lei, my time lo manchas tefillin. So Amar lei choli me'ayin hu. V'Amar Rav Yehuda choli me'ayin poter minat tefillin. He says, because I have diarrhea, and a person that has intestinal problems is poter from tefillin. You don't have to keep putting it on, taking it off. You just don't have to put it on. And I was thinking to myself, if you're eating udders from the garbage, it's no wonder that you have choli me'ayim. Anyway, but he says, I'm poter from tefillin. Chazi de lo hava karami chutisi. He sees that he's not wearing tzitzis on his four-cornered garment. So Amar lei, my time les lachuti. Why aren't you wearing tzitzis? Amar lei, talis she'ulahi. V'Amar Rav Yehuda, talis she'ula kol shloshim yom petura minat tzitzis. He says, because it's a borrowed, it's not my talis. And apparently this guy Rami was not a wealthy man. He didn't come with any food. Mm-hmm. He had to pull out stuff from the garbage, and he'd go outside the city limits. Nebuch, is a poor guy, and he's wearing a borrowed garment. And he says the halacha is that only when it's your garment is a chayiv and tzitzis, but not when it's someone else's. And for 30 days, you don't have to worry about it, even if you're borrowing it. Tosfos points out that really midioraisa, a borrowed garment never needs tzitzis, no matter how long you have it. But by owning it for 30 days, or by using it for 30 days, you sort of become the tenant of that garment, and midrabanan at least you have to put it on if you've been wearing it for 30 days. But anyway, I haven't been wearing it for 30 days, so it's butter from tzitzis. So while this interchange is going on between Rami and Rav Chisda, the people of the community schlep another guy to who they feel is doing something wrong. Who do they schlep in? They schlep in this fellow to Rav Chisda who they felt was not honoring his parents properly, and they wanted him to be punished. So kaftuhu, they arrested him. They put him in the stocks, in the city square where they would put a person in where you put his hands and his head through to show that he's being punished.
And you throw udders at him.
I don't know about that, but anyway, Amar Lahu Shavkuhu. The Tanya kol mitzvahs aseh shematan schara betzida ain't based in shalamata musharna aleha. So Rami sees what's going on, and he tells Rav Chisda and the people that are there, he says, leave the guy alone. He says at best he's in violation of a mitzvah saseh, but it's a mitzvah saseh where the Torah itself tells you the reward for fulfilling that mitzvah saseh, that positive commandment. What is the reward? The Torah says, L'man yarichun yamecha. You'll have long life. So what the Torah is implying is that if you don't do that mitzvah, you won't have long life. And therefore Hashem says, I'll take care of that guy, I just won't give him long life. So it's not Beis Din's business to administer any further punishment when the Torah itself, you can infer the punishment. So Amar Lei Chazina Lach de Charifas Tuva. So Rav Chisda finally says to Rami, he says, after all of this back and forth, he says, I see that you're a very sharp cookie. You're a very smart man. So Amar Lei Ihavis Ba'asrei de Rav Yehuda Chvina Lach Urfai. He says, you ain't seen nothing yet. You think I'm smart? I'm just traveling. If you would come to my home turf where I'm in the Beis Medrash with Rav Yehuda, my Rebbe, then you'd really see some wisdom. Okay. Amar le Abaye le Rav Safra. So now that's the end of that story. Let's go to the next story. So Abaye says to Rav Safra, Kisalkas lahasam bo yiminayu kiveda ma'atun bey. So now we're going to another organ. We're going from kechal to the kaved. Both of them are things that were eaten in the old country, but kaved we still eat today, the liver. So Abaye says to Rav Safra, I know you're going to Eretz Yisrael. Do me a favor, ask the people over there, what's the story with liver? Now, we know that liver has its own problems. Kachal has the problem because there are sacks of milk. Liver has the problem because it's saturated with blood. And there are veins, and there are, and so it's filled with blood. And blood, we know, is an Isser Deoraisa. You're not allowed to eat blood. But the argument is, just like we said by the milk, that as long as it's still contained within the udder, it doesn't have a halachic problem of milk. So, too, the argument would be that the blood that is within the liver may not have a halachic problem of blood. And so therefore it's related very much to our previous discussion. So he says, ask the rabbis of Eretz Yisrael, what do you hold by the liver? Kisalik ashkeche le Rav Zreika, amar le ana shalki le Rabbi Ami va'achal. So he came to Rav Zreika, and Rav Zreika tells him, well, I once boiled a liver for Rabbi Ami, and he ate it, no problem. So now we would never do that. We would never do that. I hope you know we would never do that. Because at halacha l'maisa, the only way that we kasher liver is by roasting it, right? But back in the times of the Gemara, there were shitas that held that even boiling liver is going to be okay. Now, ki asa legabe amar le lemeser nafsha lo kami boili, ki kami boili lemeser chaverta. So when Rav Safra comes back to Abaya, and he says, and Rav Safra says that in Eretz Yisrael they're okay with boiling liver. So Abaya says, you didn't understand my question. I wasn't asking you to inquire about the liver itself. He says, because I understand that when you're boiling something, like a liver, the water will extract the blood out of the liver, and because it's still boiling, it's not going to reabsorb the blood. So the liver, I can for sure hear is okay. My question is, what if you're boiling a liver with something else, with a piece of meat? Does the blood that comes out of the liver present a problem to the meat because it absorbs into the meat and it's going to aser the meat? That's what I wanted to know. So Rav Safra says back to him, Ma'ishna lemeser nafshad lo miboilach ditnan eina ne'eseres, lemeser chaver tanami lo tiboilach ditnan hakaved oseres ve'eina ne'eseres mipi shehi poletes ve'eina bolas. He says, so it must be, says Rav Safra to Abaya, that you must know a Mishnah, that as long as a kaved is boiling, it emits blood but doesn't reabsorb it. Well, if you know that Mishnah, then you know the entirety of the Mishnah, because the Mishnah says that a liver only does not, it only emits blood, and therefore does not become usher through cooking, but it users other things that it's cooking with, because it says that expressly in the Mishnah, oseres. It prohibits other things that it's cooking with because it emits blood but does not absorb blood. So Amar Lei, so Abaya said back to him, that may not be the pshat of the Mishnah. That's why I had this question. Because Dilma Hasam bekeveda di isura umishum shamnunisa, but mishum dama mai. So Abaya said, he says, maybe the taich of that Mishnah that we're going to see later on in Chulin is talking about a treifa liver. And the reason why it says that it's oseres ve'ena ne'eseres is because let's say it's a liver from an animal that was not shechted properly. So that liver is usher not because of blood, it's usher because it's a treifa. And the question there, maybe that Mishnah was therefore only addressing a situation where, because it emits some of its fats that absorb into the meat that it's cooking with it, that's why it's usher. But what if it's a kosher liver? That's something that the Mishnah may not be addressing, and that's what I want to get clarity on. Does the blood that is emitted out of a liver aser the meat that's cooking with it, or do we say that bichlal, that blood is not prohibited? That's the question that I have, and that's not so clear from the Mishnah. So ki hadar salik ashkechela Reb Zreika. So Rav Safra took another trip to Eretz Yisrael, and he found Rabbi Zreika. So Amar lei, hai nami lo tiboilach, da'ana v'yanai bereda Rabbi Ami, iklan lebei Yehuda bereda Reb Shimon ben Pazi, ukrival kanya bekufaya va'achalna. So he said, so once Rav Safra realized what the real question that Abaya had, he asked Reb Zreika, and Reb Zreika said, that also is not a problem. He says, and I'll prove it to you, because I and Yanai, the son of Rabbi Ami, we once went to the house of Yehuda bereda Reb Shimon ben Pazi, and they brought us out a trachea that was attached to all of the organs that attach to the trachea, which Rashi says include the liver, the lung, and the heart. I'm glad I wasn't at that meal. But anyway, they cooked that all together, and they placed it on the middle of the table for people to take pieces of it, and we ate it. And so you see that not only is the liver that's boiled permitted, but all of the other organs, the body parts that were cooked together with the liver, are also okay. So that proves to you that the blood that is emitted from the liver does not prohibit other things that are cooking with it. So maskef lo Ravashi v'temer Reb Shmuel mi zrukinya v'dilma pikana chutz l'kedei rahava. He says, so Rav Ashi challenges this question, this proof. He says maybe when they boiled it in such a way where the vein that is coming, it's called the portal vein, that comes out of the liver, which squirts out the blood from the liver, maybe that was together with the tip of the trachea sticking outside the water. Meaning when they boiled it in such a way that the main artery of blood that would come out of the liver was spritzing out of the pot and not into the pot with the water, with the other organs. And that's the reason why it was mutter. But you can't necessarily infer from that story that if you boil a liver and all of it, the veins are in the pot, that the blood that comes out of it is not going to be a problem. Or maybe that story was talking about a case where they scalded the liver in advance of the other organs, so that because by cooking it first, before you cook all of the other organs, you're drying out, or you're sort of coagulating the blood that's inside the liver, preventing it from spritzing out of the liver into the water. But maybe to go ahead and cook it, maybe that will be a problem if you didn't do some kind of technique in advance to prevent the blood from coming out. Ki hadar Rav Huna chalti lei bechala, v'Rav Nachman chalti lei beroschen. And we know that Rav Huna used to do this. He would take the liver and pickle it in vinegar before he would allow himself to cook it with anything else to prevent the blood from coming out. And Rav Nachman would scald it in hot water also to prevent the blood from coming out. V'savar Rav Papa kamei de Rav Lameimar chala aser. And when Rav Papa heard about this, he said that to pickle the liver is not going to work. He says, you know why? Because Amar lei ichala aser ihu nami aser ki hechad apolit hadar bala. He says, I'm sorry, I mistranslated it. Rav Papa wanted to say that when you pickle a liver, the vinegar that has absorbed all of the blood out of the liver, that vinegar is aser. Why? Because since it's absorbed all of the blood from the liver, then it's bloody vinegar, and so that blood is aser. So Rava disagreed with him, and he said, no, if you hold that you can use vinegar to pickle the liver, so then the bloody vinegar must also be okay. Because if not, then the vinegar creates a two-way osmosis. Once the blood comes out, it's going to reabsorb into the liver. And therefore, if that pickling is drawing out forbidden blood, it's going to cause that blood to reabsorb into the liver, and it's going to aser it. So therefore, you have to conclude that the blood that's in that vinegar is permissible blood, and we're not machmir on it. We only do it in order to prevent it at the time of cooking to emit out into a pot midirabanan, to prevent it from that happening. But the bottom line is that the Gemara still is left with this question: are we able to permit boiled liver with cooking it with other items? Because maybe at least midirabanan we would asr those other items because of the blood that is emitted out of the liver. Even if you could argue that the blood midiorais is not a problem because it's coming from the liver, but maybe midirabanan we would have to asr it, and that's where we're going to hold it for today.